If I gave you $1,000 right now, what would you do with it? Would you pay some bills, pay down debt, put it in savings, or maybe spend it on something you really wanted? How you answer this question says a lot about your mindset with money. Today, I'm going to show you the best way how to handle your money so you don't feel like it just gets sucked away and you're constantly playing catch up. The first thing you want to do when you receive your paycheck is make sure your regular bills are covered. These are your basic necessities like your rent or mortgage, your groceries, car payment, gas, utility bills, things like that. This does not include eating out, buying new clothes, or swim lessons for the kids. So after you receive your paycheck, you want to either pay your bills immediately or you want to set the money aside to pay them later, but don't spend it. If the price of eggs determines whether or not you can afford to buy groceries, you should not be buying new patio chairs at Target. You need to be able to pay your bills first. Okay, now that you've paid your bills, let's talk about an important step that many people skip, an emergency fund. You need to save for emergencies, even if you have debt. This is contrary to what most financial gurus recommend, but here's why it's important. Yes, you are losing money every day that you don't pay off your debt. But at some point during your debt payoff journey, you are going to have an emergency. Maybe your car engine dies, maybe you break your leg and need to go to the emergency room, maybe your mom gets sick and you need to buy a last-minute flight home. When that emergency happens, you're going to need a cash reserve to be able to pay for it. And if you don't have that, your only option will be to put it on a credit card. This is adding even more balance to your high interest debt. It's like if you're digging a hole in the sand and every time you throw some out, it just fills back in again. The solution is to have 3 months of living expenses set aside in an emergency account. And that money is only to be used for a true emergency. I know that might seem like a lot of money, but once you have it set aside, you have a strong safety net that will support you in case of emergency. Not only is this just a good idea financially, but it will also give you the peace of mind of knowing that no unforeseen circumstance is going to throw off your debt payoff journey. Now it's time to tackle debt. You're going to start by making sure you can pay the minimum payments on all of your debt. This will help minimize the damage to your credit score because you'll still maintain good payment history as long as you're at least paying the minimum. It will also ensure that you don't have to deal with any stressful situations like having your car repossessed because you're still making the minimum payments on everything. Next, you're going to build a debt pyramid. Here's what that looks like. At the top, you're going to put credit card and other high interest debt. This is anything over about a 7 to 8% interest rate. A higher interest rate on your debt means that it's eating away your money faster, so you want to focus on paying this off first. List out all of your high interest debt by interest rate or total balance. Whichever one will keep you motivated is fine. Any extra money you have to put towards this debt, you're going to pay from the top down. Start from the highest debt and work your way down. In the middle of your pyramid, you're going to put medium-term, lower interest debt. This will be things like an auto loan, student loans, and maybe medical debt. You want to make sure you're paying the minimums on all of these, but you're not going to prioritize paying extra until your high interest debt is paid off. Finally, at the bottom, you'll put your mortgage. If you don't have a mortgage, fine. You just have a smaller pyramid. If you do have a mortgage, that's the last piece of debt you're going to pay off. Mortgages are typically the largest amount of debt we have, and usually the interest rates are fairly low, so it's considered less expensive debt. Also, as a side note, you may not decide to prioritize making extra payments on your mortgage at all. That's fine as long as you have a fairly low interest rate, around 3 to 4%. I am not here to tell you that debt is the devil. If you have other life priorities like getting married or traveling, you may not want to pay down your mortgage early at all, and that's fine. But if you have a higher interest rate, like 7 or 8%, you may want to look into refinancing. Okay, I want to walk you through an example with real numbers so this all makes sense. This is Amanda. She makes $5,000 per month or $60,000 per year. For the sake of this example, we're just going to ignore taxes. Her regular monthly bills are $3,000, which includes her rent, utility payments, car payments, and the minimums on all of her debt. Here's her debt. She has $4,000 of credit card debt on one card with a 24% interest rate. She has $11,000 of credit card debt on another card with a 19% interest rate. She has $12,000 of principal left on her car loan with a 3.6% interest rate, and she has $40,000 of student loans with a 4.5% interest rate. So in total, Amanda has $67,000 of debt. And after paying her bills and the minimums on all of her debt, Amanda has $2,000 left. First, I'm going to set aside $500 for free spending. Even though Amanda is working to pay off debt, she still deserves to use some of her money to spend on fun things. This leaves her with $1,500. Now remember, the first thing that Amanda should do is build a 3-month emergency fund. Her expenses are $3,000 per month, so her emergency fund should have $9,000 in it. If she's contributing $1,500 per month, then she should reach this goal in about 6 months. Then it will be time to move on to her debt. Let's make our pyramid. At the top, we're going to put her 2 credit cards. I would choose to pay down the $4,000 first since it's a smaller amount and a higher interest rate. Let's just knock that one out real fast and then work on the $11,000. In the middle of the pyramid, we'll put Amanda's car loan and student loans. Since she rents, she doesn't have a bottom layer for mortgage. She'll start by putting that entire $1,500 towards the $4,000 of credit card debt with a 24% interest rate until the entire amount is paid off. Now here's the great part. After that first debt is paid off, Amanda will have $1,500 to put towards her next debt, plus the minimum she was paying on the first debt. Amanda was paying a $100 minimum payment. So now she has $1,600 to put towards her next debt, which will help it decrease even faster. She'll keep repeating this process, working her way down the pyramid until all of her debt is paid off. Now I know what you're thinking. This all sounds great, but I've tried it before and it didn't work. This is why building an emergency fund first is so important. So you don't have to worry about taking on more debt when you're already in debt. Second, there are psychological reasons why someone may struggle to pay off debt. Debt carries a lot of feelings of shame. When you tried to pay off your debt before, you probably got in your head and got stuck somewhere in the process. But the fact that you are back here again, working to pay off your debt, means you're going in the right direction. You've got this. Decision paralysis is another way you may struggle with your debt. You have so much debt in so many different places that you struggle to figure out where to even start, so you just don't start at all. This is where using the debt pyramid can come in handy because it organizes your debt and helps you focus on one thing at a time. You may also be scared of failure. What if you try but can't pay off your debt? What if it takes too long? What if you do pay off your debt and end up back in debt again? Or maybe you're just so used to having debt at this point that you can't even imagine your life without it. There's also guilt. You may be ignoring your debt because you feel so guilty about having it in the first place. Maybe you feel stupid for letting yourself rack up so much debt. You need to try reframing your circumstances. Instead of saying, I'm so stupid for letting myself get in credit card debt, try, I made some mistakes in the past, but I'm ready to be free of debt and I'm going to work hard to do it. Instead of focusing on the mistakes that led you into debt, focus on accepting where you are now. Think about how good it's going to feel when you make that final payment and are debt-free. So when you're deciding how you want to organize your finance, remember, pay your bills first. You need a roof over your head and food to eat before you worry about anything else. Then you're going to work on paying the minimums on all of your debt and building your emergency fund in case something unexpected happens. Finally, work towards paying off your debt. Always start with the high interest debt first and work your way down to the lower interest debt. And if analysis paralysis sets in, remember, just focus on paying off one debt at a time. Work on paying off that first debt completely before you focus on the others. If you've had success paying off debt, I'd love to know how you did it. Let me know in the comments below. And if you like this video, remember to give me a like and subscribe and come back every Wednesday for new money content. See you then.